I might preface there's probably some administrative support around that won't fit in that category.
Yeah.
But I'm the sole director of the company, and I'm very well within the 15.
Have you now done that, immense growth in a relatively short period of time?
It's been very enjoyable. I've loved bringing a good, beautiful group of people together. It's sort of been the most rewarding part, but obviously there's some learnings along the way, just dealing with
Everything.
office,
Exactly.
IT, all that sort of nonsense.
Yep.
But it's based on a collaborative approach. Whilst the practice does have my name on it, we don't work in that way in isolation. It's very collaborative with everybody who's involved, from students that we work with to more senior people.
All right, we're on time.
Okay. So we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, which we meet today. I'd like to tell you that Australia is the sunniest country on earth. Fact. So 550 Spencer Street is the first building in Australia to harness sunlight into energy and utilise energy directly from its site into its own building. It produces more energy than it uses. The building is an 8-storey commercial office building. It has a retail front to a large landscape verge on Spencer Street in the corner of Roden. The site is in West Melbourne, which is in the foreground here, right on the doorstep of the city. We took this photo when we were engaged on the project. It's a densifying part of Melbourne. It's going under a big portion of change into a mixed-use precinct with multi-residential buildings, lots of new homes, lots of office buildings, lots of art studios, and they're all adapting a lot of the industrial use buildings. We love the historical materials of the place, lots of brick, lots of iron, lots of sawtooths, lots of warehouse-style windows. There's a huge mixture of homes, cottages, and both period terrace houses. Our building sits within a cityscape of a mixture of all of these. There's a new building across the road. There's a sawtooth warehouse in the foreground. There's a wonderful mix of established eucalyptus trees that our site benefits from. The site here is the black hoarding that sits across the other side of this green landscape verge. This tree is just magnificent. Spencer Street is on the left, which is in the belly of a curve on the way to North Melbourne. Spencer Street is now planned to be a new high street, so it will be a densified connector to the northern suburbs. We are adjacent to a row of heritage-listed terrace houses. In light of that, we will benefit to have a frontage to Roden Street that was council land. We offered, through the developer's contribution, to upgrade this portion of the street. We've nominated a retail tenancy that will make use of it, and then a small office or commercial tenancy on the eastern side. It's got a really significant end of trip, and then the lobby fronts Spencer Street. We've utilised our connection to the heritage terrace homes with a building that uses datums from its parapet. We've set back our tower formation further back from this in order to give this some space to exist in its current form. More on this. From the street, walking along Spencer, we have a glazed curtain wall as a hybrid facade system. The purpose of this image is to, whilst these images aren't great at communicating it, is heavily activated with glazing. We finished the building 2 days before the submission date, and all these photos we've taken from our studio, so we haven't had a shot yet. The idea is that there's a landscaped recessive level 1, which facilitates growth that will be active and visible from the street. The concrete awning sort of separates a ground floor activation into more commercial presence above. The interior of the lobby has been it's dominantly clad in timber. So these are all solid timber battens that we've cut in half and turned onto their sides so that they replicate the geometry of the facade. There's two significant artworks that hang in the lobby. The base of this image is covered in floor coverings and witches' hats. So we didn't want to wait another year to shoot it properly. We think it's important to tell the story now. But the idea of the central lobby is it is really warm, it's cocoon-like, and it doesn't feel like a cold, stark commercial interior. My idea for the tower, which was trying to find a geometry which fit on a 1,000 square metre site, a genuine square, was to rekindle an excitement with modernist forms, but in a new performative way. So my interest with commercial buildings stems from the modernist movement in Melbourne, sort of from the late 50s to 1970s. I love the idea of these being concentric, efficient plan, side cores. And then they would utilise, in the early days, a new curtain wall facade system, but you can notice that there's solid panels and glazing panels. The idea of a full glass wall wasn't really a thing in these time periods, and these start to form some of my favourite buildings in Melbourne. So adjusting an urban design response into a massing outcome is to mass the site. We reduced the section that related to the heritage homes, and we pushed the tower form away to front Spencer Street, which gave you a commercial idea of a building and then a residential scale to the rear. It then gave us some articulation to the lower level 1, which separated the tower form from a retail presence. And by utilising the facade system, which we'll talk in detail in a moment, we're able to green the two rooftops and able to provide them to common space. So in sketch formation, I love the idea that terrace house forms a rhythm. We've adapted that into our small section, which almost feels like its own building. And then the tower sits proud, almost independent from the lower levels. We had a concept around an innovative facade system which would prevent solar heat gain, optimising southern views and gaining solar access from the north. So a simple diamond or diagrid solution is highly performative in this instance. We then would model that over a 7-storey tower formation and would start to then innovate what this solid section could be. If our energy ratings are becoming more strict, which we all implore and are excited about, we have to have solid sections within glass facades now. So why not make these solid facades performative instead of just being another facade panel? So we recognised that there wasn't a system like this anywhere in Australia. So we expanded our search globally and we found products on the other side of the world that could deliver on this. We then started to look at how we could build it because there was nothing like it that we could go and see. There's no builder in the country that done this before. So we built examples of facade and mock-up. We then had to go through vigorous performance testing, which with the benefit of the COVID-19 lockdown gave us some time to do this. So we built a 4-storey mock-up and set it on fire in Wurundjeri Fire Precinct just outside of Melbourne. We then had some very clever fire engineers, some very clever building surveyors that would assist us in producing this into an approvable building product that Australia can now use. I'm not going to try, I've got a really beautiful film, which I might show you in the question time whilst you're talking, but the way that the sun moves around this changes the dapple and the flicker of this material texture. The solar panel is glass and it has a film on it that activates the sun. It's then captured through highly technical, first ever built electrical system that runs through the floor into the core and back into the building, able to be used. So the benefit of the facade system is that by using the solid sections of the facade to face north, we're able to gain heat and gain electricity. We're also mitigating heat gain on the interior. So the red is where the sun and the electricity is the most strongest, and as it pivots around the building, we're able to monitor that the thermal comfort being red, being optimised, means that we, if ever, barely need to use air conditioning. So the interior floor plan has this wonderful light quality, has a wonderful view in the upper levels, and you get an ambient light that is perfect for workplace, whilst being elevated amongst the eucalyptus that surround this building. This is the highly technical bit that I'm going to stay for the sustainability section, but it does prove through our ESD engineers that the building itself can generate.
Going a little bit over time.
Oh, right. In short, we can use all the energy that we produce on site. So the most important thing for us as designers and architects is that we love progressive innovation, but we're also on an insatiable search for beauty. And we feel that this product doesn't look like the solar panels that sits on roofs. It integrates into a facade like a glass wall system. It is a matte finish. You get these wonderful tonal shifts between the glazing and the matte effect from the glass solar panels. That's the film. We actually like the idea that it is quite bold. It sits within an urban scape that doesn't have a language where it feels uncomfortable. And you get these beautiful sight lines through the trees of West Melbourne that can imitate some of the sawtooth language. This is an idea of the landscape terrace opportunities, which we've shown here on level 1. The building outperforms any building that I've ever done. It sits on a really high scale on all of these ideas. And I just want to leave you with one final thing. This is the first image I showed you. We modelled this building on the left-hand side. We asked ourselves if we could apply this facade system on that building. We saved over 70 tonnes of energy on this building on itself. If we were to apply that to Swanson Central, we'd almost save 1,000 tonnes of emissions every year.